Hey, look at that.
There it is.
Right at the time. There it is. We are joined by Nate. Is it Kadlecek?
Kadlecek.
Kadlecek. And I know I heard on one of your recent podcasts that's Lithuanian mostly. 17%?
It is it is Czech and it's mainly Czech from Czech Republic.
Was your guest? She was Lithuanian.
Yes.
She had her company name was a Lithuanian word. Yes. So we're joined by Nate here. We're just gonna go Nate, and I can remove my doctor, and we're both you're a doctor as well, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So we're both doctors of physical therapy. Connected through the Facebook worlds and the online, Twitter, social medias, wherever you're at there. He's over in California. Where exactly are you?
I'm in Monterey.
Fancy.
So
fancy.
right on the coast.
Yes. What was that show? Big Little Lies? That was.
Yeah. I didn't even know that was a thing until long after the fact. So
yeah. Well, that took place right there in Monterey. That's like the main thing I think of when I hear Monterey. Mm-hmm. And was that you punting your punting video I looked up on YouTube?
Yeah. That was
11 years ago.
One of my very old punting videos. That's actually how the university that ended up signing me found me. So, or one of the ways.
Yeah, everyone needs a good punter in the football.
That's right. That's
all right. Well, we're gonna cut Red Hot. They're too red hot for us. I did see them in Woodstock '99. If anyone's checked out that Woodstock '99 documentary on HBO, that's how I remember it. They did a good job of capturing the craziness that was that. Anyway, we're here to. It was special. It was special. I think '94 was the one to be at. That would have been the better one to be at. A little less carnage and all that. We escaped before it got too crazy. But yeah, it was intense. But yeah, so. We're here to talk to Nate and catch us up. What are you doing now? What are you passionate about? What's going on? And I know you're diving back into. We were just talking before we went on back into your podcast. But again, I call this Bono stuff. I want to learn some stuff. I'm selfish like that. So teach me some things, man.
Sure. Well, for those who do not know me, I am a physical therapist, and I started a clinic in Monterey actually 3 years ago in April. So it's coming up on that time. I'm treating clients right now, Monday, Tuesday, Friday. So like I was telling you a little bit earlier, just working on Monday, Tuesday, Friday, a little bit longer days. And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays, I made this decision a couple months ago that I would be focusing my time on those days to writing a book that I'm working on, to actually working on finishing it.
Can you share with us a little bit around what that's going to be about, look like, all that?
Yeah. So it's basically advice that I wish I would have had when I was 20. Based on
any one area, health and fitness, or kind of everything?
Everything. From relationships to how to navigate uncertainty, fear of not knowing what you want to do with your life, not feeling worthy, how to build actual deep relationships.
Just absolutely normal experiences that we should all be experiencing and be okay with. No.
What's that? Oh, yeah. Right.
Totally normal.
Everybody should just understand. Everybody should just understand it. You don't have to put any thought into it, right? Yeah. Everybody should just go through life and not think about it.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. So I'm the oldest of my brothers, and so you go through a lot of trial by fire when you are the oldest. Yeah. There you go. And yeah, so it's just really the book that I wish I would have had when I was younger.
Nice.
And also it's just to get my thoughts on life out, so that when I am gone, or hopefully before I am gone, people know where I stand on things. They know how I think. They know just where I'm at. And we're actually, my wife and I are expecting a baby coming up soon. Yeah, thanks. In August. So it's just really something that's been on my not even my bucket list, but my list of when I'm still alive. So
Yeah. Leave a
um,
legacy. Leave a
yeah,
legacy. That's
yeah,
awesome.
exactly. So just helping expedite people's life progress, so it doesn't have to be
Nice.
so difficult.
Learn from the
Um,
mistakes we've made.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the big part of the book, and then just diving into my podcast again. I started a podcast in 2020, and part of that was because I had so much free time.
Yeah.
I closed my clinic for 2 months, and I was like, what the hell am I going to do with myself? Um, So that was part of the passion project that started. And what I've realized is that I'm trying to focus on things I'm being pulled towards now, and instead of trying to push a rock up a hill.
Mm.
And feeling very pulled in the direction of, like, some of the things we'll talk about today, of how to help improve people's health on a population level, which is, you know, disclaimer, it's probably not through telling people to work out more.
Yeah.
Um,
Eat less, exercise more.
Eat less,
That's
exercise more. Yeah, it's probably not that. It's probably something else. So I'm very passionate about that. And then larger, just public policy issues. And I'm going to be committing a lot of time to doing research, putting that research into very digestible formats, by interviewing podcast guests who are experts on the subject, by writing various blog posts, making YouTube videos about it, and just seeing where that goes. It's
awesome.
really just again, a passion project that's kind of pulling me in that direction.
Awesome.
So
We're doing a little bit of a series on my other podcast, the Demand Better podcast, about how research and science is presented to us by the media, by different outlets, and how we should be interpreting it. So I don't know if you'd be gracious enough to kind of go off on that tangent for a second and tell us what you think research wise. I'd love to hear how you're going to bring that to the masses. But is it like, hey, this new study had 30 people and it found that doing deadlifts is going to increase your longevity by 5 years? Like, is it that, or is it or can we cut through? I would love to hear your kind of take on that topic. Just if you
yeah.
have like a 2 minute window, 3, 2, 1, go.
I think that if you look at people who are doing it well, it's people like Greg Knuckles. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him,
Mm-hmm.
but I graduated from college with him. So he was in the same exercise science program as me. I took classes with him. Super sharp guy, really down to earth. And he has the Stronger by Science
Mm-hmm.
brand, and they do a really great job with their articles where, I mean, they will be so in depth, but at the beginning they have a TLDR
Mm,
version
right,
where they're just like, hey, here are the most important points. Here's the takeaways.
right.
Of course, if you want to read more and get into the weeds, go ahead and read more of it. I think that if you present things in that way, um, people don't like, it's not like a meme on Instagram where you can't really capture all of the nuance in that,
Right.
unfortunately, yet people take that as gospel.
Yeah.
So at least you have the bullet points of, like, hey, here are the key takeaways based on
Mhm.
what we found, here are the limitations,
Right.
and here's our longer discussion if you are so inclined. So I
Yeah.
think that's a responsible way to uh, dispense research.
Yeah.
And then also guys like Ben Cormack, Peter Attia, both of these guys have actually created lots of resources of, like, hey, here is how you should here's how you can actually read research articles.
Yeah.
Here's how to actually digest them, and get better at reading them, because it is a skill that needs to be developed.
Yeah.
So I think both of those are great starting points,
Sweet.
or ways to dispense that information.
Sweet. And I guess what would the advice you have for somebody? So when a study comes, when a headline comes out and says red meat causes cancer, and then if you start hearing, well, new study found blah blah blah, just maybe again, we're doing pretty thorough deep dive on this, but I'd love to hear your kind of quick 2 cents on that one. Of what would you tell the consumer of that headline?
I would say that you have to look at what the incentive is from the person that's sharing the information. The incentive for a news agency, usually, not for all agencies, but for most news agencies, especially the larger ones, they want you to click on a news article,
Right.
because on the side panels of the news article on the website, there are ads that are being shown. They get paid when people click on those ads and purchase things. And so the more salacious, the more just enticing, the more sexy the title is, the more clickbaity it is. Unfortunately, that is how more people click on it. That's how they make more ad revenue. That's
Yep.
why we have more negative news than positive news. And so
If it bleeds, it leads.
if it bleeds, it leads, baby. So that is a big problem. And so what I would say is that just recognize that a lot of these headlines that you see are created in such a way to get you to click, and you have to make the conscious decision to say, oh, okay, like, is this actually true? And just going in like saying, hey, this title probably doesn't accurately reflect all of the nuance
Yeah.
on this subject. It probably is just
In
a
this
very it's
90-second soundbite, or
exactly, or in this like 5 second soundbite with like TikTok, it
yeah,
probably doesn't capture all of the nuance. So let me at least acknowledge that and say, oh, this is interesting.
yeah,
And then if you really want to get into it, go look at the primary sources if you can even access them, which is a problem. That's another whole topic. But
yeah,
try to get to the primary sources, and if you know how to decipher those, wonderful. Then you can actually make an informed decision. But if you can't, then at least don't hold that position like it's gospel. Like
right.
don't read a clickbait title and then go around telling everybody that, oh yeah, see, red meat causes cancer.
Yeah,
See this article.
yeah,
I read this article. It's like,
yeah.
you're missing it. You're missing it. So
A quick example of that I'm gonna give now is I don't know if you know this guy Thomas DeLauer on YouTube. He's like a good looking fitness guy, talks about some of the nutritional studies, and he's got a lot of stuff there. But new study, this changes everything about resveratrol, and the study was 11 men, healthy men who happened to be obese. I didn't look deep enough to see what they meant exactly by that. Maybe metabolically healthy, but somehow just overweight in terms of markers. But 11 men, and I think it was a 30-day follow-up study. So like that shouldn't be changing everything in the clickbait title of it, and stuff like that is really what starts to bug me. But it's the nature of where we're at. So I don't know. We got to keep finding those deeper voices to be able to speak truth to science, or whatever the term is at this point. But let's take that into our first piece you wanted to talk about, building more walkable, community-oriented cities for better health outcomes. I love the concept. I'd love to hear more of what you're doing with that, and where that came from.
yeah, this is an idea that has now been germinating for. Oh, I think I might have lost you. Let's see here. I'm gonna wait because I don't know if I. Oh, you're
Nope,
back.
I put you on solo, so you get
Oh,
all
I'm
the
on
spotlight.
solo.
No, sorry, I didn't cue you
I
up
was
for
like,
that.
oh.
But 3-2, it's all you.
Okay, cool. I'm all alone. Oh my god. So this is just an idea that's been germinating for about a month now. I was very interested in public policy and how to just impact population health since really grad school. So I guess 8 years ago now, almost. Um, all of my, I had a couple friends who would be deep in the weeds of talking about anatomy and biomechanics, and I'd be like, well, it's not that interesting to me. Let's talk about how like our healthcare system is not really serving the people it's supposed to be serving. But I used to think, and I've been trying to wrap my head around trying to figure out the best, if there is such a thing, way to improve people's health overall. Because the problem, or a big problem, is that we have more and more non-communicable diseases that keep sparking up. We have more gyms than ever. There's more apps than ever. There's more free stuff than ever to help people be fit and healthy. Yet we aren't. we are completely missing the mark. We're hoping that technology is going to save us. We're hoping that just more education and all of this is going to somehow change at a population level how people actually take care of their bodies and their mind. And it's just not happening. We're failing. Like we really are. And
Yeah, I don't know if you know that statistic, but this is the first generation of children with a shorter life expectancy than the previous generation, which is the first time in human history, and all whatever you believe, whether it's only a few thousand years you believe in or millions of years you believe in. But it's the first ever time in recorded history that's happened. So that's scary stuff.
Yeah, it is, and I wasn't aware of that, but I'm not surprised, given the direction that we're going in. And so, with all of that, being a therapist and being a personal trainer and being someone who talks with my clients all the time about this, and seeing as a society that we are not making any progress in this, at least not in the United States. In other countries, they're definitely doing better, but I I stumbled across about a month ago, and this is after a conversation that I was having with one of my clients too, who's an architect, about city planning and how the actual forming of streets, of different buildings, of having different sectors, zoning laws can actually affect the health of the population at large,
Hmm.
because you can actually incentivize physical activity
Right.
just by the mere fact of how things are set up. People don't have to think about it. It's just built into their everyday life. And
Hmm.
you and I know that walking is, I mean, of course, like people should be resistance training 2 times a week, at least. Um, I have to harp on that. But most people aren't doing anything. They're getting well below the needed physical activity guidelines. And part of that is because our cities are laid out so poorly
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
United States. Um, Even in Monterey, like a lot of it isn't walkable. There's still like a bike trail. I think it's better than a lot of cities, but if I go back and think about, like, I lived in several different states at this point, and in Arkansas, I mean, shoot, it was a small town. You couldn't, I mean, you could walk places, but there weren't any sidewalks in a lot of places.
Hmm.
Cars are driving fast. It's not appealing to walk places. It would take me like over an hour to walk to the grocery store. Um, so our cities are set up in such a way where we are I guess disincentivized. I don't know the word, but disincentivized to walk, to be physically active. You have to physically make a choice to be physically active. You have to make a choice to eat foods that are healthier. You have to make a choice to do anything now.
Right.
We have optimized our lives to be comfortable and convenient, and I
Hmm.
think it's just having a serious effect um, on the U.S. and
Yeah.
of developing nations around the world. To be quite honest,
Yeah.
again, some of the Nordic countries have done a much better job.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Almost
but that,
everyone in like some of the like Denmark or Copenhagen has a bicycle. Like
yeah,
it's just commonplace. They you see hundreds of bikes in at the front of whatever little area you're in there. It was pretty
people don't
cool
even own
visiting there.
cars.
Yeah, some people, yeah, a lot of people don't own cars. Again, who knows how
Hmm.
much benefit that is for the environment, things like that. But again, for the physical health and the entire healthcare system. Are you familiar with the blue zones?
I am. Hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know if you saw that at some point they took some of their stuff and then they became like city advocates in there. I remember finding a video where they did something similar to what you're talking about of a city planning, making it more accessible for health. I want to say it was in like Wisconsin, somewhere in Wisconsin or something like that, where they just went in there and they're like, cool, the city has the money, they're ready to rebuild, and we're gonna come in and help them set up in like bike lanes and all these different things we're talking about here to figure out where to put stores even and just yeah, again
Yep.
that flow of the city. So to again incentivize the physical activity concept there. So yeah, that's awesome. So what steps are you actively doing now to move towards kind of that big picture?
So right now, I'm very much in a research phase. I want to make sure that I have all the facts, or at least a good percentage of them, before I feel too strongly about something.
Hmm.
I have the tendency to jump into things and like, wow, this is the best thing ever. So my rule to myself now is to give it at least like 2 weeks to a month of a healthy amount of research to really see if the idea holds weight, and if it after talking to a multitude of experts, if I feel like it's still worth something that's worth pursuing. And so far this has met the litmus test. So the next steps after kind of the research phase and gathering the facts is I will be starting to make some content on it that will just kind of solidify some of the knowledge that I've gained. I'm going to be having podcast episodes. I'll be reaching out to like city planners, architects, um, and just public health officials, and getting them on the podcast
Hmm.
to just talk about these issues. And then I also plan to start going to some of my planning, like the city planning meetings
Hmm.
and town hall meetings, just to see what the plans are in my own community, to see what they're doing to improve these things, or if it's even on the radar.
Right.
So those are just a few of the next steps that
Awesome.
that I'm taking.
Love it. Love it. Cool. That takes us, and I think this next topic you threw out is incentive theory of motivation, how that relates to health and well-being. I actually have motivational interviewing for healthcare practitioners, as that's right there. That's what
Nice.
that one is. Hey, don't be crazy, dog. Sorry. Go ahead. So tell us about
Um,
incentive theory of motivation.
yeah, this is interesting. I think it relates to the first thing we were talking about. Um, Ultimately, we do things because there's some incentive for us to do it. And some people, like for you and me, there's some internal, or is usually a combination of internal and external motivators of why we exercise or why we do certain things for our health. And we are lucky that that is baked in to just
Yeah.
kind of our identity at this point, right? Like some people, unfortunately, a lot of people, actually, the majority of people, that is not really baked in
Right.
to who they are as a person. And so it makes it very difficult to make that change. Um,
Why do
so
you exercise, Nate? Why do you exercise?
I exercise for, I mean, various different reasons. I think part of it is I have been physically active since I was a very small child. I played three sports growing up my entire life. And so that, I mean, that alone is a huge environmental, um, external motivator that becomes an internal motivator because you view yourself as a physically active person. It's like, well, I've
Mhm.
always done this, so why would I ever stop doing it? Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So that just makes it easy,
Right.
ultimately, even when you're not in those organized athletics anymore.
Mhm.
And then I also, being in the healthcare field, I know the benefits of it. Like
Right.
like by and large, I know that cardiovascular risk factors of my family will be far reduced if I am getting my cardiovascular activity in and my resistance training. I know the benefits that it can have for injury risk reduction, especially if I want to go out and be a weekend warrior. If I'm lifting and practicing agility and
Mhm.
preparing my body beforehand, I probably will have a lower injury risk. So that's also of benefit. And I like looking good. It's like there's definitely a vanity metric in there
Yeah.
too. Like I enjoy like being muscular. I like how I look when I'm working out and doing that stuff. So um, and then of course, like I think I want to be. I'll just be honest. I think I want to be perceived as someone who is fit as well. I want people to see me that way too, because
Mhm.
that's important to me as well.
Yeah.
So all of those reasons.
Love it, man. Sorry, so we took you off the original thought pattern. So back to the kind of
Oh,
incentive theory of
yeah,
motivation.
yeah. So just the fact that some people, and I think it's the minority, are just predisposed for environmental and biological reasons. It's just easier for them to work out and be active and making those healthier choices. And of course, like socially, if you grow up in a wealthier environments, where you have more financial means, it's just easier as well. You don't have like so many constraints. You have more options. But for a lot of folks, that is not the case. Maybe they weren't physically active growing up. Maybe everyone in their family is not in shape. Everyone has, or lots of people have chronic conditions. And the lifestyle itself is based on comfort and convenience for various reasons, right? Like maybe their life is so hard to begin with that choosing to do another hard thing like exercise, because it's a hard thing, like it's just not appealing, right?
Right.
And so when I think of the incentives to get people to do certain things that are good for them, I always go back to like, do we have to create, and do we have like some companies will create policies where like if you make a certain number of sales, you get this, right? So
Right.
that's like a monetary incentive, and then there's lots of different types of incentives, but I suppose the incentive for like people, like why would people walk if they're like there's no incentive for people to walk to a grocery store that's a 30-minute drive, that's a 30-minute walk, if they could drive their car there in like 2 minutes.
Right.
But there is an incentive to walk if they live 5 or 10 minutes away and it would take the same amount of time to drive.
Yeah.
Because they have to get
Or getting them to make the smaller change to at least park at the very end of the parking lot,
correct,
and walk that extra distance if they're just trying to find ways to build a little bit more physical activity in.
exactly. So basically, the incentive theory of just motivation is really figuring out like what truly motivates people from an external point of view and from an internal point of view. And then a question that I've been asking myself the past couple months is, how much external motivation does it take to develop internal motivation, or can they happen at the same time? Is external alone enough in the beginning to trigger some amount of internal? I don't know the answer to that
Right.
question. I just think it's a fascinating one.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. I love that exploration of the topic. I wonder, so some of the things that were coming up for me is like, if you have like a fitness tracker, and then that accountability of putting it, whether it's on social media, and being like, hey, I'm doing this challenge where I have to walk 10,000 steps, or some of them will have where you can be in a group and you can see what, oh, Nate did, burned whatever 3,000 calories today. I only burned 2,500. Oh no. Whatever the numbers are, but like, I gotta go run and do 500 calories worth of exercise right now. But yeah, the incentive theory motivation, it's super interesting. And that other part too that you were talking about, it sounded like in your answer, I heard there's that identity piece. So I identify as somebody who gets up and works out, or I identify as somebody who's going to find time. You have a kid on the way, you got to find time to get your hour of fitness in, or maybe it's only 20 minutes of fitness or even 10 minutes of fitness, but you're just going to commit to having that bit of movement. I think it's easier for us as people who are in front of a camera, who like looking good. We have that ability and we've been doing it most of our lives. So yeah, there's that. But then how do we take somebody who hasn't been doing that for a long time and might not have that incentive or that motivation? And motivation is also an interesting word. A lot of times that what comes up for me recently when hearing that word is it's very temporary, right? Motivation. So it's really finding that like change to an identity, and it's very hard to do with a client, even one-on-one, to say like, I want you to be a person who, and like changing people's language. I don't know how deep you've gone on the language thing, if you've
Very
seen,
deep.
yeah. So I'll bring up the easy one that I hear a lot is like, I have to go pick up my kid from school or whatever, versus I get to go pick up my kid from school.
Correct.
And that little bit of language change. And again, I really got to make sure I go work out, versus like, hey, like I want to go work out. And like, whether you believe that or not, whatever that language bit is, I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff there. So yeah, thank you for that topic. And I'd love to hear where that goes for you for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And can I say one more
Yeah,
thing
of
about that?
course.
So this is just my opinion. I don't know if this is true or not. So I just want to throw that out there. Um, I think that on a micro scale, that we should, of course, still be doing motivational interviewing. We should still be helping people foster a sense of self-efficacy and helping them figure out how to build that internal motivation. I don't think that that alone is going to change the direction of the US health.
Mm,
I think we need something more dramatic than that. Like, even if
ooh,
everybody was doing that, I don't think it would change anything.
that's true.
I think the forces fighting against that are too strong.
Mm.
Like
Let's
like
let's
these.
let's let's go there. Let's go there. So
Okay,
what are
let's
the
go there.
forces? Which forces are you talking about? Is it the dark side? Is it
It's Darth
is
Vader.
this Darth Vader? Yeah. Which forces are we talking about? I think I know where you're going, and I just want to expand on that a little because I think that is the real conversation.
Yeah, I think the forces that are at play here are several. Number one, I think if you look at human progress, right? Human progress, we throw that term around all the time, especially in the tech. I mean, especially with tech companies. I mean, it's like just be a flagrant foul, but they're throwing that word around, and I think we're optimizing for the wrong things. We're
Mm,
optimizing for being comfortable. We're optimizing for convenience, but we're doing it in certain ways that are not advantageous to our health. And
hmm.
so, for example, um, we can like there's never been a time in human history that you can literally stay in your house, order food, order a car to pick you up, order anything you need from Amazon. You literally never have to leave your house. I mean,
Hmm.
assuming you have like some financial resources,
Right.
right? You almost never have to leave. And just the way that we're structured, like if you even go back 50,000 years where we're all hunter gatherers, why would we exercise? Why would we like
Well,
there's
yeah.
no
If I can jump in there, I mean, we are hardwired to be as lazy as possible.
correct exactly.
Yeah. So I mean,
Exactly.
genetically, we are definitely, and there's really interesting conversations there. I've talked with a few folks of this. Rob Wolf, if you're a fan of his, I don't know if you know his work or not, but he wrote a book called Wired to Eat. That I
Mm.
think speaks to a lot of the concepts you're going into here, and it just comes down to yes, we're told to eat more and exercise less. Sorry, other way. We're told to eat, but no, but we're told
That's
to.
biologically that's what
Right,
we want.
right. That's exactly it. Is genetically we are hardwired to eat
Yeah,
more and exercise less because we
correct.
want to save up as much as we can. But we are then told to do the opposite of what your genetics says. And
Yes.
the doctor's just like, hey, you're overweight. You should really eat less and exercise more.
Right.
And it's like, well, but my genetics say, and like I have this up, like what's the incentive to your point is like, and some people get diagnosed with diabetes and then they're like, hey, we have to cut off your leg if you don't change your dietary habits. And they're like, I
Okay.
guess that's what it's going to be. Like, I guess I get a prosthetic or what, and like, and not to, victim blame or anything like that. But his book, Wired to Eat, is just saying that like, yeah, we are in this crazy situation that again, everything's built against our genetics. And the food scientists have literally kind of thrown it in our face. Bet you can't eat just one of these. We've actually scientifically engineered them. So we know that
Yeah.
once you take one bite, your brain's going to be like, give me more.
Give me
So,
more. Yeah.
so it's a really fascinating topic. I just wanted to jump in there with that. Sorry.
No, thank you for that addition. Yeah, that's literally exactly it. So not only do we have our own biology that has been with us for thousands and thousands and thousands of years
Hmm.
that is working against us, we also now have tech companies and food companies all engineering these things with a deep understanding of how humans work to make us do things that are uh, in our worst self-interest.
Mhm.
So it's not even just our biology anymore. It's like we are actively destroying ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you were gonna go there, but I'm also when you said those evil forces, or I forgot the phrase you used, but maybe I put that evil forces in there. But I was thinking you were going to the pharma, big pharma, and going towards that, and even the whole concept of agriculture, and all the money involved in pushing the food pyramids, and how basically when you look at some of these things, the food pyramid as it's recommended is actually the same kind of diet that they use to fatten up cows to make them more whatever, sellable. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know if you were going there in terms of the healthcare space and things like that.
I wasn't really going towards necessarily the pharma side of things. And look, like I don't think a lot of this is necessarily done nefariously.
I do.
I think there are. I don't think anything is ever 100% nefarious
No.
and zero and in the opposite, right? Or in zero and like or 100% like altruistic. I don't
Right.
necessarily believe that. I think there's people are complicated, companies are complicated, industries are complicated, or I should say complex. Um, and so there are certain, of course, like there are certain people in big pharma and certain companies that definitely are pushing the more nefarious side, right?
Yeah.
And I believe the same is true on the opposite side of the spectrum, where like some of these bigger pharma companies are probably more altruistic. Like I think there is a balance there, and I just I'm less optimistic about human nature
Yeah.
in in the past couple of years versus my early 20s, but I'm also not completely
Let's see what chapter of the book this will be in. That's what.
yeah, exactly. So ultimately, I think humans are very good at exploiting, like especially ones that understand how human brains work. Unfortunately, you have some very smart people who are nefarious or who are just doing it for economic gain or
Right.
who are doing it out of the pure, they think this is cool and interesting and it's going to like, they really think they are true believers that what they're doing is going to solve all the problems,
Right.
when in reality it's just causing a new one.
Did you follow the
So
Elizabeth Holmes trial at all?
I didn't really follow it, but enlighten me.
So she was a dropout at Stanford University. She was able to get
I mean, she's
her
a
whole
Theranos person, right?
Theranos was the company. There's a bunch of
Yeah.
different podcasts and like TV shows and movies now coming out about this. So the whole story was pretty wild. I hadn't really heard of it until Peter Attia, who you mentioned, was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and they were talking about it. And a really funny kind of connection to all that is Peter Attia told an anecdote where he had an opportunity to work for their company. And basically, she was trying to push this, like they called it the Einstein was one of the names, this little box that would allow you to take a drop of blood and do 100 lab tests off of that one drop of blood. So you wouldn't have to take a whole vial of blood, which at the end of the day, it's like, is there really that big of a difference? I don't know, whatever. But this was a whole revolutionary thing. She presented it as
Sure.
like, I want to save the world and all these things. And ultimately, it was just a sham the whole way. And again, whether that was, again, she genuinely wanted to change the world in a better way through blood testing, and that, and then at some point, to your, again, maybe I've seen too many of these stories where, including big pharma, where people don't necessarily have they might go into it with good intentions, but then all these things come up, and then ethics just get thrown to the side because then it's about survival, and it's like your livelihood or your reputation. So bottom line is she was found guilty recently of spoiler alert for anyone who wants to go check out all the podcasts and things. But as soon as I got into it, after I heard the Peter Attia and Joe Rogan interview, Attia, so to finish that, I think I dropped off that, is that little box that they were selling. Attia was like, "Can I see what's inside? Can you explain what you guys do?" And she was like, "No, you can't. You don't." He's like, "I signed an NDA." And
Right.
he was like smart enough to be like, okay, this is like nonsense. And then, even after that, they still went on to raise over $1 billion They were huge, like, oh, what, this is amazing. Everybody should be investing, blah, blah, blah. But like Atia was like, yeah, no, I saw it was nonsense. And that, they were just kind of lying. And it's, how far do you go down that rabbit hole of kind of selling the lie until you get caught, which she eventually did. But anyway, very interesting story. But sorry to go on a bit of a tangent there. But
no.
To bring it all back, maybe we can go to. So yeah, I guess let's wrap up the whole pharma. One thing I'll say too, with all this that I wanted to touch on is we talked about research before, and again, when we talk about some of the ways people present research, and again, it's either they don't understand this is my kind of same take on some of the are people nefarious? Are they just kind of going with what sells? And at the end of the day, they just want to sell. Are we doing good or not? Is they're either they don't understand the actual thing and they're just like interpreting it in the wrong way, or they very well understand the thing and they're presenting it in a again malicious, like nefarious way to say like, oh, like the research doesn't really say that red meat causes cancer, but we're going to say red meat causes cancer because it pushes our pea protein agenda, which, if you've seen the Game Changers documentary, that's its own little story, which we're recording a whole podcast on tomorrow on the Man Better podcast. But yeah. So anyway, sorry, that's my little tangent there.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, it's hard to know when people are being nefarious or not. But to your point, if somebody is highly educated and should know better, I have a hard time giving them a pass.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, when I see politicians saying on both sides of the aisle, by the way, saying certain things and talking out of both sides of their mouth, I'm like, come on, man. Like, you know what you're doing. You're an intelligent person. And at the same time, like, I understand like you said, like once you start getting into millions and billions of dollars, you are now at the intersection of infinite complexity. And so you have a lot of different forces that are pulling and pushing, and to have a consistent message that's ethical and aligned with your values should be the norm. But oftentimes people choose the path of the Sith. So.
Yeah. Appreciate you bringing it all back to that. One thing before I forget and we move into the next topic, because I like that third topic, I definitely want to hit on that, is in terms of this community based and how we're going to make huge change. I don't know if you saw my episode yesterday. It was with Physiology First. They actually have 3 different kind of brands, I guess. There's Physiology First. They're located in Maine. They're a 501c3 nonprofit. And then they have the Distance Project and also Breathe to Perform. So David Bidler and then Lex Friedman, I believe is her last name. They were on yesterday with me. They just announced specifically through Physiology First. The basic overall arching premise is they especially work with high school kids to basically say, understand how your physiology works before you go and even worry about training or whatever. And everyone's getting diagnosed with ADHD. One of the big things for me there was, that we got out of that whole exploration was, let's explore building your skills of learning how to breathe and control your breath and do some belly breaths instead of being like stressed out and in fight or flight, and understanding how to switch from autonomic to parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system kind of manipulation, all these things. And they got the chance to work with Andrew Huberman among folks, and who's gotten really big in the last few months. His podcast seems to be one of the most popular on the market right now, which I recommend people go check out as well. But the big thing there was again that concept of like, you should have your driver's license before you get your driver's license. This is not a driver's license; it's a ski pass. But I just happen to have it right there.
I did look closely. I was like,
but it's my wife's ski pass. If anyone wants to steal that, no.
I was gonna say you've lost the facial hair.
Yeah. But the idea was, before you even get a driver's license, you should get a physiology license. Like, you understand how to do some of these basic things. And that's kind of my thing in the way I assess people is, can you breathe well? Can you move really basic patterns well? And if not, these are the things we need to work on, because, it's great that you have this injury and low back pain, but it comes back to, can you move well? And these are the debates I get into in the healthcare space too, with something very, let's just say passive treatments, passive modalities. It's great that we have passive modalities, like you're saying, that get us out of pain. It's very modern kind of thing. But if we're never going past that passive piece and going into the active and what you're actually doing day to day, are we just going to keep having those same injuries? So anyway, that's my little shtick. But I'd love to connect you if you haven't heard of Physiology First, guys. It sounds like, that might be an interesting, good fit of just getting people together. And at the end of the day, we're all trying to freaking make this crazy healthcare system a little bit better. So
Yeah, exactly. No, I'd love to be connected with them, and I think that really speaks to how important, because this is high school students.
they were, yeah, they have a program specifically for, I think, just teenagers. I don't know if they have
Okay.
a cutoff
Middle
for
school,
junior high school or anything like that,
Yeah.
but it's just that tends to be a lot of the folks they get, because again, there's just so much overdiagnosis of ADHD, and it's like, before you go take the pill that's gonna give you a little more focus, learn to breathe. And the other one
Yeah.
up towards you kind of is Kelly Star Ed, and I don't know if you've seen their
Yeah.
program, but they worked with stand up kids, and they said, hey, these kids are like jumping off the walls, and then you're making them sit in these chairs, and for 8 hours a day or whatever, and they need to move. So
Yeah.
if we just, and they literally went into schools and got rid of the desks, and they just said, you'll find a place to stand or sit down or move around. Like, we want to encourage that, because that is, again, our genetics are hardwired for that. So if we can tap into that and take advantage of that physiology and understanding the basic physiology, and that seems to be the huge disconnect. As much as I love the mission of these guys at Physiology First that we talked yesterday, is there seems to be a huge mismatch between, again, what the systems are, what the government is, what you're talking about, the city planning things. And it's great to build these things in and try to make change on a huge level. But yeah, that's the question, is, can we make small grassroots changes? Like, CrossFit grew as this very grassroots thing, and people got into the cult, and then they might have found gymnastics from that, or they might have found Olympic weightlifting and gotten out of the main cult, or they found better eating somehow. But it's how can we really make these global changes? And it's a pretty fascinating topic. So anyway, I'll throw it back to you, because I'm rambling.
No, we're both rambling. It's great. So yeah, I mean, I think it really goes back to just early education as well. And even more so than just physiology. And like you said, with the kids, when you were talking about kids running around, I just thought of my dog, who is a year old at this point, and she gets the zoomies, where she just needs to sprint. She just needs to go. She needs to move. And if there's a day where we don't do it, and she's a lab German short-haired pointer mix, and she's a big 75-pound dog. If she does not move and get exercise in on a day, she is just out of her mind, right? And ultimately,
I just got back from taking our guy,
oh
our girl
yeah,
there.
my dog, yeah, she's taking a nap on our bed. So, yeah, and so we're just animals. Humans are just animals with a slightly more evolved brain that can communicate across millions of people versus hundreds, right? That's really one of the only things that separates us from chimps. And it's so why do we treat ourselves so differently? But with that, yeah, I mean, early education of physiology, changing things around that way, and even teaching like things of like financial literacy and things like that in school from an early age. Like I could go on and on about the changes that need to happen in the public education sector to make kids into well-adjusted adults too. That's not to say that like parents don't have their role, of course. I mean, that's a huge thing, but I think that we can redesign schools in such a way that actually prepare kids for the 21st century as opposed to the industrial age. So
those were some other interesting resources for anyone checking in. I don't know if you've checked out some of these resources. There was the Dopamine Nation book, and we actually did that as the Physiology First book club. Dopamine Nation, just talking about we're all addicted to our phones. And then the Anna Lemke, I believe, is the PhD professor, and I think she's a psychologist, but she talks about having like a dopamine detox. where basically like, yeah, you're not allowed to have your phone for no Instagram for a month, like kind of thing. But it really is about, again, manipulating and understanding the physiology and these
Sure.
worlds that we're getting caught up in. If anyone saw the other Netflix documentary was, what was the one? Basically talking about how bad social media is.
Oh,
The Social Network? No,
no, that was the one with that was like the
that was the
Facebook one.
face place. Yes,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Is
Social Dilemma.
Social
Social
Dilemma?
Dilemma.
Ah,
Yes.
there we
All
go.
right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Dopamine Nation is one of the resources I want to talk about. The other one that I'm thinking of with you and this bigger change is the concept of upstream. Have you heard of that one by Dan Heath?
I've read it.
Yeah, and that's a great one we did for a book club recently. For anyone not familiar, some of the big concepts there, and we talked about it yesterday on. I had Rebecca Griffith, who's a doctor of physical therapy in a emergency department here, and so that concept is kind of foreign to most of us. But yeah, the fact that if you go into an emergency room and there's a physical therapist there, the physical therapists are the best equipped to handle almost any musculoskeletal and neurological issue on for the most part. We're probably the most readily available and equipped to handle those specialties. And obviously if there's more medical stuff, we can hand that off. But yeah, it saves a lot of money, time, energy to be able to focus on having somebody like that in there. So but upstream is along those concepts of every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets, and just all these interesting examples. The Icelandic example was very interesting, of some of the changes they made for the community, to really again improve overall health outcomes for the entire country. And they're a country of 300,000 people, but it's a little easier to make some of those powerful changes there. But at the same time, it's interesting to see what a country like that can do. And again, some of the things, and they have more than half of their government is female, which is also very interesting. And like, let's look at that as an example in some ways. But anyway, without going down too many fun rabbit holes, let's hit on this last topic. You want to talk about choosing to experience and be uncomfortable in order to build resilience into the system. And then are you happy with the word resilience there, or do you want to go with anti-fragile?
That's a whole nother debate.
Yeah.
But it's like the term risk reduction and prevention, or resilience and anti-fragility. I think really, I do think language matters. And so, yes, the words we choose are important, but I don't know. I think the word resilience versus anti-fragility, to me, resilience is a more efficient use of the English language than anti-fragility. And so why would you choose to use like the guy just wrote a book and decided to make a concept of resilience into anti-fragility. Like the way that I viewed I know the difference of what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna clarify for the listener that basically resilience is facing something challenging and you end up back at baseline, versus fragile, you face something of challenge and you actually get weaker. And then anti-fragile is you face something of challenge and you get stronger because of it, so you don't actually just stay at baseline. So like when you go work out, but yes, it is a semantical thing. I thought I'd throw that out there. I figured you knew the difference, but here we are.
Yeah, like and for the listeners, but like from my standpoint, that's already how I viewed resilience. I already viewed it in the lens of you don't just go back to baseline, you actually learn from it and grow from it. And so I just thought the whole anti-fragility thing was, quite honestly, I thought it was silly.
Fair enough.
So
fair enough. we got enough things to worry about, folks. We're gonna
and again, like I'm and part of resilience or anti-fragility, and I think this is an important thing, is that it's okay for people to disagree. It's okay for, like, I think that's part of the process. And that's actually something that too many people are not willing to have, right? They're not willing to have like disagreement and really talk about like the semantics of this type of stuff. They're not willing to sit there with the like uncomfortability of the topics in various aspects. But that's a tangent. But in terms of like being uncomfortable and actually choosing it, what I mean by that is going back to the very beginning of our conversation, that we are now in a place in various countries, and as long as you have some financial means, that you can order everything online and live your life and never leave your house. And you're going to suffer for it, but you can do that. And so, in order to actually live a life that you are physically healthy, mentally healthy, relationally healthy, spiritually healthy, all those different ways, you nutritionally healthy, that goes with physicality, but you have to make the conscious choice to move. You have to make the conscious choice to have the hard conversations. You have to make the conscious choice to buy things from the grocery store that will serve your body versus harm it. You have to make all of these choices. They're not just intuitive. They don't just happen anymore.
Right.
And that's really hard. So my challenge to everyone listening to this is to just recognize that if you don't make those choices and you're just kind of coasting, that you're literally allowing everyone else to make the choices for you.
Mm.
And it's not going to lead you to a place where you like. Your health will decline,
Right.
your mental health, physical health, all of it, if you're just being guided by somebody else or society writ large.
Yeah, but that's the one thing that really gets me, and when I reflect on my business and how I've grown my business, when I've worked with business coaches, I always reflect on who I work with the most and who I'm most able to help and who buys into my message, which is very different than the normal physical therapist or even strength and conditioning person. And it's usually people who have gone to multiple other practitioners and trusted them to guide them in their journey of either getting out of pain or losing weight or whatever the challenge is. And that's the thing that frustrates me is we see so many folks start these concepts and they're just either they're not fully thought out or they're just not the right answer. Again, like, oh, I'm going to switch to plant-based and either or keto or whatever the latest fad is. And again, you get caught up in the clickbait and all these things, and or you see somebody in the gym and they're on the elliptical for an hour reading a book or reading a magazine or watching TV, and it's like they probably have good intentions, and but at the same time, and somebody might have told them like, hey, you just need to do cardio 5 times a week, for an hour on the thing, but those are the people who they plateau, and you and I can scream like, hey, lift a weight. Go do a little bit of a high intensity interval training thing. It seems to be a big fad. It's a fad. Let's do it. But yeah, that's the thing for me that when you're talking there is there are still well-intentioned people who put trust into. I'm not going to pick on any specific profession or types of people, but I've that's why we had the whole other podcast. Demand better from your personal trainer. Here's a bunch of things we see that personal trainers do that we think stink. Here's demand better. The second episode is demand better from your physical therapist. If you're getting 8 minutes of one-on-one time, and then you're getting the other 52 minutes of hot packs and electrical stim and some basic TheraBand exercises, like that's probably not what you really need to get back to whatever it is you want to do. So anyway, that's my other rant. So this one's chock full of my rants. I appreciate you bearing with me.
Of course, that means that I triggered them. So
You did.
We must be hitting something deep.
The other fun word I'm going to throw back based on that last topic is the term hormesis. Is that one you like or can rock with?
Yeah, hormesis. Hormesis is tissue hormesis.
Yeah, there's different ways, different contexts we can talk about it. But yeah, the hormetic effect is my favorite example, of course, is the Princess Bride. Since we're doing a bunch of random movie references today, I appreciate that you can rock with me on that. But anyone who remembers the Princess Bride, the main character, the pirate, what's his name? The pirate Henry, the main guy, Carl Hughes or whatever his name is. But he sits down with and he outsmarts the Sicilian. And he says one of these two has poison in it.
Yeah.
But so the hormetic piece is he had little bits of the poison to ultimately become resilient, to your point, to the poison. So anything hormetic is going in an ice bath, so that you're more comfortable in these uncomfortable situations. So that's the term that comes up for me that I love that term, hormesis, and it's a fun one to say always.
That's a great. I had heard the term, but I had forgotten what it meant. So thanks for reminding me. But I think a way that I implement that is on long runs
Hmm.
and also on like harder, like higher intensity days in the gym with like squats or deadlifts. I just find that when I am training myself to exert at a very high level, it is not only helping me physically, it is also helping me mentally because I can translate that experience and also be able to push through and adapt to challenging situations that will come up in my everyday life.
Yeah, I'll share this real quick. Is in doing CrossFit type stuff, one of the biggest mental gains I've made is, and it's a funny thing. I think a lot of people who've done CrossFit probably do something like this, and different just variations of this. But if you have a chipper where you're chipping down, you might have 100 sit-ups, 80 squats, 60 something, 40 something, 20 something. And so as you're chipping away, that's something I find myself in all the different situations of, I'm driving 8 hours from here to Utah. So, I literally think of it as like a EMOM or a, and you can see literally on the GPS, the clock, the thing ticking down. So there's this observable, repeatable, measurable kind of aspect to it. So, and that, to me, that mental part you're talking about for sure is something that's like, okay, cool. I'm going to do eight of these 500-meter row repeats, something I did the other day. Unpleasant. But every time you're doing it, you're chipping away. You're like, okay, I only got six more. Like, and I'm just going to take these one at a time. And then again, how that applies to life is always fun, whether it's, responding to emails or checking stuff off your list. And it's just getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's a term I love for sure. So we're up on a little over an hour. If you have any other big things, I know I feel like I ranted more than I usually do, which is rare because I rant a lot. So it's hard for me to rant more than I usually do. But you brought it out of me for sure. So, but yeah, if you want to close off on any big thoughts or just tell folks where they can find you.
I don't know that I have any big thoughts. I think we covered a lot today. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think maybe the biggest thought is that um, don't be a cog in the machine. Don't be a cog in the machine. Don't do it.
We'll do that. Yeah.
And then where people can find me, I have a podcast. It is called Strong Society by Kadalyst. So you have to type that all into the search engine. So Kadalyst is spelled Kadalyst.
And that's the name of this episode is Be a Catalyst.
Oh,
Changing the world with Nate Kadlecek.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Yeah, so you can find me there. You can also find me on Instagram at Dr. Kadlecek, and then where else? Oh, on YouTube as well. I have a little channel there. But
did you just switch to shorts? It looked like I was looking at that.
I did shorts for a bit. I was testing out some stuff, but
yeah.
I am going to be going more long form content again and really going in depth on some more of these topics. So stay tuned for that.
Exciting, man. Well, let's play out a little Red Hot Chili Peppers and Stadium Arcade.
Their best album, I think.
That's saying something with their catalog. They got a big catalog.
Yeah, they do.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, hope you got you at least 1% better out there, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, share, comment, rate, review, all the stuff that helps us grow. And we'll talk to you guys next time. You can stay on, Nate. I'm just going to